Hello, my name is Billy Jones. I am a member of the South Florida Writers Association and also moderator of this very special segment. Welcome to the South Florida Writers Association's Author Showcase Series, a virtual experience, our May 2020 edition. We are grateful to have you with us today. The purpose of this series is to showcase our amazing members and authors who are doing incredible things in the world of authorship. This is an opportunity for you to learn more about their artistry, their storylines, their process, and a few additional things that we'll ask toward the end of our segment. The South Florida Writers Association is a nonprofit organization here in South Florida that has been around for over 30 years. Its purpose is to bring together emerging and independent and traditionally published authors into a forum where they can support one another and also hone in on their craft. It's also a place where one networks and also gains new knowledge and insights into their artistry. So we're very privileged to do what we're doing today, especially in these unique times of our pandemic. The Author Showcase Series traditionally takes place at Books and Books and Pinecrest, but we decided to provide you this virtual experience in order to allow our readers and our authors an opportunity to connect with one another. Today, I am privileged to introduce Mr. Figg. I will read his biography. Mr. Figg is a children's writer from South Florida. He was born in Brooklyn, New York, and raised in Miami, Florida. He is Haitian Puerto Rican American. Whether it is an adventure in a backyard or set in fantasy, his stories usually take readers away from the everyday world. His goal is to always create a story that is entertaining while providing a lesson or two. Mr. Figg is a former high school language arts and journalism teacher of the Miami-Dade County Public School System. He holds a baccalaureate in English from Florida International University. And you can find more information about Mr. Figg at www.mrfigg.com, or you can follow him on Twitter and Instagram at Real Mr. Figg. We'll be providing that information as well and our social media links when this video is distributed. Please welcome Mr. Figg. Hello, Mr. Figg. We can hear you now.
Hi, everyone. I am Mr. Figg, and welcome to the presentation of my writing with my first picture book, Orange Orangutan, and for the online book launch of my new picture book, A World of Candy. To start, I'll tell you a tiny bit about my love for writing. As mentioned by Billy, I am a former language arts teacher in the high school system, basically an English teacher for those of you that are younger. But as a child, many years ago, I liked reading stories that got me to use my imagination. These were stories that would involve all sorts of worlds or characters of all types and from different types of worlds or from our world. As time went on, I knew that I wanted to write stories of my own. Now, many years later, that's what I'm doing. With my writing, since I love stories that encourage me to use my imaginations, I create stories that will get you to use your imagination as they take you away from our world or on an adventure. These worlds can be anywhere, from a backyard or something in fantasy or a science fiction world. And along the way, as mentioned, we can learn a lesson or two. That is what I have done with both Orange Orangutan and A World of Candy and many of my future works as they come along. And with this presentation, I'll start with A World of Candy. Orange Orangutan. Orange Orangutan is my picture book that was released last year in June 2019. It was illustrated by a great illustrator that I work with, Susan Massey McClellan, and edited by a poet that is a very talented writer herself, Rita Fiddler-Dorn. It is a story that I dedicated to those who are unique, which I hope is everyone. For those of you that are younger and haven't learned that word yet, it means that no one else is like you. You are one of a kind. You are different from everyone else. You are special. Now to the story. In this story, a child comes home to see an orangutan that is doing something odd. The child goes to find out why the orangutan is doing what he's doing. And the child ends up on a short journey that leads to seeing the other animals doing things that are odd or who look different or both. The child wants to find out why they are all different in their own way. After discovering the answer, the child learns to accept the animals for the fact that they're being unique. I will now read a couple of parts from Orange Orangutan. And I'll show you the pictures as I go along. One day, when I arrived home from school, I saw in the empty lot behind my house an orange orangutan who was dancing on a rainbow. Yes, he was dancing on a rainbow. I asked him, "Why are you dancing on a rainbow?" It answered, "I'm looking for a fish to fly with." I then asked, "Why do you want to find a fish to fly with? Wouldn't flying with a bird be easier?" It answered, "You will find the answer by continuing your walk over there." The orangutan pointed to a mountain. Now from there, the child goes on to this adventure where he meets other animals. But we'll stop for a second while I offer you a quick fact, mainly for you kids that aren't aware. While many people think that fish don't fly, there actually are some fish that do. They just don't fly like birds. It's more of a long jump with their fins flapping. And it's true. Almost if you've seen a duck or a chicken try to fly, not really a duck, but more of a chicken trying to fly, where it's a short spurt and they get from one place to another. That's a short distance. Of course, fish stay in water. Okay, so now with the story, we will continue to another part. There's one more part, and then I'll get to World of Candy, since that's what the main thing of our presentation today is about for the release of that book. I saw all sorts of animals. I saw furry ones, scaly ones, feathery ones, ones with beaks, ones with lips, ones with snouts, and ones with noses. There were ones who swam, ones who flew, ones who hopped, ones who crawled, ones who walked, and ones who slithered or slid. They were different, but they were together. They were all doing strange things that I had never seen them do before. Nobody had seen them do these things before. And I will stop there and mention some things. Take a look at the animals that you see in the picture. With these animals that you see, you have them here. A lot of them are very common to you. A giraffe, a squirrel, bugs, a snake, grasshopper. And then you see this thing, a seahorse. I have a little fact about seahorses. Seahorses first are very rarely seen. Most of the time, most of us actually, and maybe the only time we ever see them in our lives is either in animation or in film. They're very hard to find. They're very rare. But simple facts about them, they are one of only 2 types of fish in the entire world that swim upright or standing up, as you see here. The only other fish in the world that does this is called the shrimp fish that's in the Indian Ocean. But you can do research on that one if you want to find further information about those. Seahorses grow up to 2 inches. They are not anything like the large ones that you see characters writing in stories and in movies. With the fact that we do see them in that way in cartoons, sometimes books, and in movies, if you're looking for an odd thing about seahorses, maybe if this seahorse was doing something odd, it would be something that you see like all of those movies, where it's large enough to be ridden, or it's acting like a horse, or anything else. And as far as the other characters, to get a good idea of what they're doing in this scene, you use your imagination. Just imagine whatever all of these animals are doing that doesn't make sense. It's completely different. Like maybe the squirrel driving a car, or maybe the snake trying to run around without legs. And with the story, it continues. The child eventually comes to the end of the adventures and figures out the answer and learns a fun lesson. And if you don't have this book, I'll let you know how to get it after I'm done presenting both books. But once you read Orange Orangutan, you will be on a mystery. And the fun thing will be not just learning something new, but also trying to guess before the end, why are all these animals doing the odd things that they're doing? And now we will go to the official release of my second picture book, A World of Candy. First, as before, A World of Candy is again illustrated by Susan Massey McClellan and edited by Rita Fiedler-Dorn. This book is different from A World of Candy. It's less of a story, but more of me taking you on a tour. And it's almost a poetic tour that allows you to see the everyday world as it can be if it were made of the treats that we all consider candy. Now, candy to me means something different than what most people are thinking. When I say candy, it also includes things that are healthy too, just like fruits, which are my favorite type of candy. In fact, my candy is eating pomegranates and bananas and oranges almost every day. They're just as sweet as candy for me. Other information, I dedicated this picture book to all of you that make or want to make the world a better place. The reason I make this dedication because the book starts with that question. What would you do if you could change the world? For me, I would turn it into candy. You know why? Because who doesn't like some sort of candy or treat? I feel the world would be great like this and everyone would be happy. In this descriptive tour, that it'll be the world that I created. That's what you'll be seeing. And I don't focus on world sites that we see, such as what you'll see in other countries and so on. I focus on the world that you all see and I see and all of us see in our everyday world. The sky, the mountains and hills, buildings, cars, people, anything. And for more information, I wrote this descriptive tour as a fantasy in poetry form. It particularly has its share of nonsense verse elements. For you kids, in poetry, that means it is written in a way that doesn't always make sense and is done in a style of poetry that is made for that type of writing. I will now read some parts from it, but first we have to do a little warm-up. And part of my warm-ups that I have, not just for today's presentation, but especially when we have story times, when I do story times of my books, I want you to enter the world of imagination. And I will, for a second, I'm gonna get myself a little matchstick because I'm gonna start off with a little magic trick really fast. Let me find my matchstick. Okay, I got a matchstick. But I'm missing something. Part of being Mr. Figg is I was lucky enough to be given a cane that has magic. It has the one magic trick it's supposed to have. I don't know if it always works because I'm still learning my magic, but it has the ability to make people use their imagination stronger than they normally would. So I'm pulling it out. This is my cane. As time goes on, I'll tell the story more about this cane and what type of magic tricks are in there, how did it get its magic, and so on. But we have this matchstick, and I'm gonna see if I can do this. What I'm going to try to do is I'm gonna try and make it disappear, but I'm gonna try and make it disappear out there where all of you are at. Here we go. And please don't laugh if I fail at this because I'm still learning my magic tricks. The cane has the power. Oh, wow, I see it out there. If you all look at yourselves, I think you'll see the little pieces of it scattered all over. Let's go ahead and bring it back. Okay, got it back. Let's try that again. I'd like to do things twice to make sure I'm doing it right. Okay, I'm gonna get it. There we go. Okay, so let me put all of this away. Where am I? Tangle. And before we start, I'll do the matching, the warm up that I always say with this. And for those of you listening, you can close your eyes because sometimes that's the best way to listen to poetry, especially if you don't see the words in front of you. That way you can just listen to the words and imagine the world that you're seeing. And here's the warm up. I now close my eyes to go to Dream Station and travel from this spot to No Limits Station, where I'll arrive at the world of Mr. Figg's imagination. And now we're ready to begin. And I'll show you the pictures for this as well. So I start off with a question. What would you do if you could change the world? Let me get my cane for this part. I would become a candy maker and use my magic twirl to make a swirl and a whirl that made everything tasty and candy-licious in the world. You see the picture. I'll go to the next page. Imagine looking into the blue sky to see cloud shapes made of many color mixes of cotton candy. Do you think that would be dandy? Would you reach out to grab them? We'll stop at this part as you look at the picture. Let's focus on this part. It started with magic. Of course, my magic cane is what I use. And then the first thing we see is the sky. So not just the picture that you see here. As you close your eyes, try and imagine that. Imagine how you would see the sky. Because as we know, every time each one of us looks into the sky and see the clouds, we see different things our way. You see one thing, your friend sees another, your siblings see another, your parents see another. I see something else. I ask you, what would your sky look like? What would that cotton candy clouds look like? As you think about those images, imagine yourself reaching out to grab those cotton candy clouds. How would they taste? How would they feel in your hands? And now we'll continue. The next part is about nature. As I broke down all of this, I'll just read parts from every part that deals with a different part of the world that I created. We go to nature. Everywhere you go, trees would have milk chocolate trunks and dark chocolate branches, and leaves made of taffy or mint. You could pull off a crunchy stick. Crack! You would then have a tasty snack. Flowers and plants would be made of bubble gum. Blades of grass would be chewing gum. The flowers would match the color for each, like red for cherry, purple for grape, yellow for banana, and even the rare ones, like peach for peach. As we stop, imagine yourself pulling off one of those chocolate branches and feeling it crack off like crunchy chocolate wood. Imagine that taste of the snack of chocolate combined with the taffy or mint leaves. And how about the flowers and plants? Imagine the taste of those. the colors that are mentioned here, and other colors that you can think of. Imagine chewing them, all those colors, and the juices coming from them. You can pick any you want. And we'll continue. The next part, we start getting into man-made objects. And I'll read a part that has to do with buildings. I don't know if it can show very well on the screen, but when in the book, you can see very closely what they're made of. I would also change buildings. What if all offices, restaurants, houses, schools, and stores were made of s'mores? Nice, crispy, and sticky, chewy, gooey s'mores. And guess what? For doing your chores. Think about it. What a nice reward for doing your chores. It's like keeping your s'mores built house clean. Parents would love that. You would love that too, because I'm sure no one wants their s'mores to be dirty. Anyone that has gone camping and have had s'mores, you know you don't like eating s'mores that fell to the ground. At least most of us don't, because they get dirty. But if you had your house that was made of s'mores, I'm pretty sure you would keep it clean so it wouldn't be dirty, wouldn't get dirt on it. And of course, you'd be able to nibble off it once in a while, but don't nibble too much, otherwise your house is going to fall down on you. And of course, whenever the house needs to be built up again, I'm sure you'll be too happy that if you see a hole in the wall, that you'll take a graham cracker and patch it up, glue it together with more melted marshmallows and more chocolate. What a fantasy world that would be. And then waking up to that every day would make everyone happy. And of course, messy, but a good, clean messiness. As we continue, the next part involves people. Yes, I changed myself, all of you out there, every single one of us. And we would, the part that I'm reading doesn't tell you exactly what I would turn everyone into. But I would make people into gingerbread mixed with other treats for other parts of them, as the hair, eyes, everything else. But this part, I'm just gonna read a part that focuses on one part of you, and it's your smile. Very important to always smile in life. And I'll show you the picture. And our smiles would be bright with peppermint teeth that would improve the breath that we breathe. And we'd use laughter to pass freshness back into the air. Because pleasantness, I'll repeat that, because pleasantness should always be shared. Many meanings behind that. Always share pleasantness. Think about the conversations you have with people when you're laughing with friends. But this time, rather than you just smelling natural human breath, it'll be peppermint, and it'll be done without having to chew on something. It'll be something that naturally comes from your teeth. And it goes on. Everyone would enjoy that. But keep in mind, you'd still have to brush your teeth because you wouldn't want to ruin your peppermint teeth. And peppermint teeth wouldn't look nice if they turned yellow or green or some other icky color. Because I know you wouldn't buy candy from the store. Definitely would not buy peppermint candy from the store if it were green or icky or slimy. And I go to now a final part. But I'm going to bring something up and bring other things. I won't show other parts from the book, because this is a part that, while it's not the end of the book, it's near the end of this book. It's still a good way to end my share of parts from A World of Candy. And as I bring these items here, it's just a closing rhyme for this presentation. And I'm basically going to say, this is how I would make the world in my grand clap your hands, sometimes in a can, Cooler than a fan plan. And this is my book, A World of Candy. It is now available to get it and to also get Orange Orangutan if you have not bought it yet or don't have it yet. Please visit my website. In my website, you will be directed to where you can get these books, both online and in stores. They are available in full paperback, ebook, and e-flip book. Also, my favorite part of my website, and I think a lot of you will like it as well, you can find word puzzles that come from these two books. With the puzzles, they do change. Even if you go to the same one, they do change over and over. So you can keep going back into them and have hours of fun learning with words. And now, as I've talked about these, I will turn back over to Billy for any questions or further discussion.
Well, thank you so much. That was awesome, Mr. Figg. I was clapping, I was closing my eyes, I was participating, even though you couldn't see me as such. I was participating as an audience member, and I must admit, what you did was you drew me in as a listener. I can only imagine the incredible impact you're going to have on the children who will be engaged in your world, sir. So thank you so much for that. That was insightful, inspiring, and very fantasy-based experience. I have a couple questions for you, as Mr. Figg, and the author in particular. You know, of all, I've met and I know so many creative individuals, especially creative children's authors. And I myself, I write adult fiction, but I'm always fascinated by the world of children's literature and children's authors who produce such literature. So what influenced you? What influenced you to create these stories, like The World of Candy, The Orange Orangutan? What influenced you or inspired you to do this?
With each one of them, first, I was a very simple child when it came to my enjoyment of literature. I enjoyed the usual people, Dr. Seuss. Like all of us loved Dr. Seuss. I would read so many of his stories as a child, just all the time. But my favorite was the Lorax. What was enjoyable about his work is just sending us to different worlds, having these characters that he just created that were beyond anything. And with those, I would just let my imagination go. And through that, I definitely would want to create my own stories. Also with them, also with Dr. Seuss, also had a fascination for, again, more common writers, Lewis Carroll and L. Frank Baum. And my favorites, you know, like Alice in Wonderland Through the Looking Glass and The Wizard of Oz. And call me a super nerd, maybe I'm too old for it, but even to this day, I enjoy Wizard of Oz. To me, I still think is the greatest film ever and probably should be remade with the special effects. But they have to do it in a way where it doesn't ruin the old classic either. But those were the stories. I just like going to a fantasy world, and that's been my thing. Is just enjoying characters that are different, worlds that are different, even if they're here. And one of the things that I think of is, even though I feel humans on Earth are fine for stories, to me, animals and other creatures from or in other world settings work for me when it comes to stories. Another person with his work, I'll state, I always want to clarify, it's his work that I respect greatly, is also the most common, Walt Disney. And not so much, part of it is his work, the fantasy world he's created, but more the fantasy world he's created for all of us around the world for generations to enjoy, where he's really brought a fantasy world to life in our real world. That's, to me, I remember when I took my nephew and niece to Disney World for the first time, the only way I was able to describe it to them is I told them that think of everything that's that you have as a fantasy that you see in these imaginary worlds, and I'm bringing you to that world. This is where we're going to vacation. And it was, when they got there, they saw I was not kidding. And a part of me, the child in me came out again. It's like, yes, you know, I can never get enough of the world that Disney created. Um, but those are a lot of my influences. And as far as Orange Orangutan, one of the biggest things with Orange Orangutan, even though it's a fantasy story, I consider it almost an own voices story to a certain extent for me, is just hidden behind the fantasy. Because to me, as I dedicate it to people who are unique, I've always been unique. Today, I've dressed down a little bit and still I had to put a bow tie because it's me. But to me, I'm at my age, I enjoy still dressing up in cosplay items. To me, Halloween is the greatest holiday, not because of the meaning behind it, but because we're allowed to wear costumes in public without without being considered insane. I also love a day that's coming tomorrow, May the 4th be with you day on Star Wars, because I get to dress up in Star Wars. So I'm probably going to dress up in Star Wars and have my mask as I go to the grocery store tomorrow. Maybe put a picture out on Twitter about it and Instagram, but I don't know. But I've always been unique, and I'm always going to be a defender of people who are unique in any capacity that's there, you know, especially in our current environment, you know, where it's very important for us to become accepting of others, as particularly in our country, where there's so many people that in our ways, you know, we're different in so many ways. And I always try to be about defending that and speaking up for that, because that's who I am. That's who we all are in a certain way. And that's what's there with Orange Orangutan. And the interesting thing, I just wrote this story based on it. I know at certain times people have asked me if it's this kind of book or that kind of book or this kind of book, does it represent this group of people or that group of people? I say, no, I went crazy with it. And even though certain things that appear in it with the characters, or maybe certain things such as the rainbow or climbing up a mountain or other things there, swimming, on and on and on, may mean certain things in society, I say, hey, it's just coincidence. It's just, I wrote a story that is about everybody. That's what that was, because I know what it feels like to be a person that, okay, you're different, you know. It's about embracing that within yourself and respecting that in others. That's what I've always been, and that's what's behind Orange Orangutan. And then with World of Candy, it's pretty interesting there. With that, I just started with the question of what I would do to change the world. And then from there, I went with, I would try to make the world filled up with people being sweet and nice to each other. And then I just jumped on the concept of sweet, and I went full candy crazy with it. And then at the same time, there's a great piece of work that influenced it, not really the work, but a particular actor that played a particular character. And anyone has seen me dress up in my little suit with the little top hat and so on, it's in the tradition of influenced by this particular character and particular actor's version of the character. And that would be Willy Wonka. And the particular actor that I find to be the true Willy Wonka, like many people of my generation, is Gene Wilder. And with that, I just went with it, wanting to be a candy maker. And I created this world to make it a sweet world, and thought of the ways that, yeah, you know, it would make people happy. And this is my way to make the world a better place. And I just went with it from there and created World of Candy. And it eventually went from just being a nonsensical rhyme that it originated as when I did it. I continued a little bit of that theme, but I enhanced it a bit more and just kept right on going with it and followed that lining.
I have two more questions for you. The first question is regarding your influences. You mentioned Willy Wonka, you mentioned all these other individuals. at some point, all of those things influence you to write. What advice do you give to others who are interested in writing children's lit, perhaps even getting started?
Um, First thing is, well, it's interesting. I remember I was on Twitter a few nights ago, and someone said that they wanted to know how to start. And I just had one word for them. That was the answer. And I said, start. And that would be the first thing for everyone that's writing to do. Don't just think about, oh yeah, I want to write, I want to write, I want to write. Just get on your computer, or if you're a little bit of the old traditional way of writing, you get on a piece of paper with your pen or pencil and just start writing and let it happen. Don't worry about it being perfect. Don't worry about it being refined yet. You're at the beginning. Just get the story out somewhere. And that's what you have to start with. And then from there, just keep going there. Learn the craft of it, definitely. Definitely learn the business side of all of this. And most of all, and this is a business side of it that relates, I guess, more with traditional publishing versus independent publishing. Don't let anyone ever discourage you with the work that you're doing, no matter whether it's another writer or whether you got 50 million rejection letters from traditional publishers. We're in a new time now where as writers, we have so many resources. To me, just get writing and you will be able to get your work out there one way or the other. And then you could bring it to audiences somewhere and be happy. And most of all, be happy with whatever audience you get. For example, when Orange Orangutan, when I did that, my goal was to sell one. I just wanted to sell one to somebody that was not a friend, not a family member, and so on. And when it went way above that number, I was happy. When I got to 2, I was like, all right, everything after this is icing on the cake. This is a bonus. And you kind of have to go with that on a certain level. Be happy with what you're doing. We didn't start this to be, for me, actually, most of us, I think all of us on certain levels that do enter the world of writing, we didn't enter this because we were 4 years old, 5 years old, 6 years old. Whenever we thought about writing stories at the beginning, we didn't think, okay, I want to make a bunch of money and I want to be world famous and so on. We did it because we love stories. The same way a kid that plays baseball started playing baseball because he loves baseball. A girl that likes to sing does it because she sings. A boy or a girl that gets into acting, they do it because they liked acting. Do it for yourself, do it for your happiness is the main thing, and then let everything else fall into place. We have too many resources. You can't hold yourself back. And that's an extension of just start, just do it, jump in, and meet other writers and artists too.
I love what you just offered there, because I didn't ask as many questions because some of your responses were just so good. I didn't want to break your flow because Mr. Figg is just that intriguing. I hang on to every syllable that you're stressing. So it's really awesome. So what's next? I know that you have a book. The book is the 2 books now that are here. We're dealing with a pandemic, which is fine in that regard. We can't control Mother Nature, but we can control our own destiny. So what's next for you as it relates, whether this book or other future works?
With other future works, my illustrator is busy right now. She's busy putting together the works of my next picture book, which will probably, the gap between this release with World of Candy and the next picture book isn't going to be that much of a gap because, of course, the pandemic did delay World of Candy for a couple of months. But she's working on the next work, and the next work is going to be more of a true own voices work, where it's going to cover, it's a story that it's a little adventure, and it touches a little bit on experiences as a child during the summer in my Haitian grandfather's backyard. And it'll be that side of me, the Haitian part of my culture. And that's what will be coming out, if not the end of this year, early next year. At the same time, I've combined with another poet, another writer. We're working on a middle grade work that's going to be a collection of poetry and short stories that affect middle grade students and children. Um, and that's what we're working. I don't know. I won't mention the name of the author yet because I don't know if I can mention her name yet. That we're working together on it. But that's what's there. And then overall, I'm also working on another larger project that's going to take probably a year or two, more or less, to where I'm writing my first children's novel. And that one is going to be a pure entering the world of my imagination there. It's everything there. The people that are part of the writers group that have read some of the chapters so far and critiquing it, one of them in particular says it's the perfect fit for a graphic novel, even though I'm creating it as a novel that'll have some pictures in it. It'll be a novel with marginal pictures, almost the same way when you buy a copy of Alice in Wonderland or other works that are similar to that. And it enters my world. It's a combination fantasy, science fiction, and on and on and on and on with that one. And those are the projects right now. I have others that are there. They'll come out as time goes on because they are going through the process of editing and then working with my illustrator's timetable as well.
Thank you, Mr. Figg. I want to say, first of all, I've personally seen you in action. I've seen you at the Miami Book Fair International doing your thing out there, dressed in several attire. You were Mr. Figg in different visages. It was just amazing. But not only that, for being such an advocate of me as well, and other writers out here as well who are doing our thing and trying to promote our work. I appreciate your contributions to the world and wish you much continued success in your future endeavors. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. And one thing I want to say, we know that the pandemic is there and it's hurting a lot of businesses. I'll say this, let's all get out there and support the independent bookstores. They've done so much for everyone in their communities, and also all of us writers, whether we're traditionally published, independently published, or a combination of both. Get out there, particularly for those of us in South Florida, let's get out there and support books and books particularly, because they've done a lot for a lot of us around the community, and all of the other ones everywhere else in the country and in the world.
Thank you, Mr. Figg. I'm going to mute your mic and bring the closing remarks. Thank you for watching our segment with Mr. Figg as he presented A World of Candy and a little taste of the orange orangutan. This segment, our author showcase series, is here to provide viewers across the globe with a glimpse of the incredible authors who are doing and sharing their incredible work around the world. And they're doing it remotely from the confines of their homes as we go through these unprecedented times. The South Florida Writers Association welcomes all members. For more information, you can tune into us and check us out with the links that are provided below this video, as well as support our authors whose information will be provided below as well. The South Florida Writers Association meets each first Saturday of each month right here in Miami, Florida at the Pinecrest Regional Library. For now, we're hosting our meetings remotely, but in time, we hope to get back and should get back to our traditional setting. But we welcome all individuals, whether you're thinking about writing a novel or better yet, you've already published a few. We welcome your experience, your insights, and your companionship as we all walk this journey towards creation and sharing with the world. And I just must remind us in a final remark with this. In times that we are experiencing, it is the arts that brings us together. It provides that food for the soul and nourishment for the spirit, so that way we're able to stay connected. So thank you to all the artists and all the talented individuals who are doing what they can with remote experiences to help others stay connected and as one. I'm Billy Jones. Thank you for watching.